Alright, section 10.1, we're going out of order a little bit. Area of parallelograms and triangles, so this brings in your rectangles and your squares as well. Rhombuses will be in a different section along with kites and trapezoids. So, first thing, area of a rectangle is the product of its base and height. So formula number one that you need to remember, area equals base times height. Base doesn't always mean that it has to be the bottom. Okay, for this one we'll just use it. So if we call this B, we call this H, you multiply the two together and you get the area of the rectangle. Area of a parallelogram. A parallelogram and a rectangle are really similar. A rectangle is a parallelogram. So it's still the product of the base and the height. So area equals base times height. But the height has to be perpendicular to the base. So a lot of times you'll see a parallelogram have a dashed line for its height, and then the base will be the side that the height is perpendicular to. Sometimes they'll put the height outside of the parallelogram as well. So they'll make two dashed lines like this and show you that it's perpendicular. So then this would still be the height, but the base would be over here. Depends on how you look at it. Okay? Some vocabulary that you need. The base of a parallelogram can be any of its sides. So it could be the left side, it could be the right side, it could be the bottom, it could be the top. It doesn't matter. The height is the length of the altitude, and the altitude is the perpendicular segment to the line containing that base. Perpendicular is a big word here. And it says to the line containing that base. If you think about the parallelogram that we had, if you draw the height on the outside of the parallelogram, then it's perpendicular to a line that would be drawn through the base, but the base is actually way over on the bottom of the parallelogram. Okay, so you gotta be really picky with this. Alright, so let's try this one. We want to do area of the parallelogram. So the formula is area equals base times height. Alright, so the base in this picture depends on how you look at it. The height has to be perpendicular to the base. So this is the height, this is the base. The 4.5 has nothing to do with anything. Okay, so we'll do 5 times 4, we get 20 inches squared. Alright, with this one, we need to figure out what is not useful because they gave us a lot of information here. Okay, base and the height, so you have to picture which ones are perpendicular. The 3.5 has a perpendicular, so this is the height. That means this is the base because the height is perpendicular to the line that contains the base. The 4.6, not useful. So we'll do 2 times 3.5, which gives us 7 inches squared. Alright, so the question I need to ask you, how are a triangle and a parallelogram related? And if you look at this, if I grab a hold of the triangle and I slide it over, let me make it a little more transparent so we can see things a little better. I slide it over, what happens? It just so happens that the triangle is half the parallelogram. So if I flip that triangle over, it would fit on top of itself and make a parallelogram. So then how are their areas related? Well, formula for a triangle, it says it's half the product of the base and the height. So area equals 1/2 base times height because a triangle is half the parallelogram. Okay, so with a triangle, you have to figure out which one's the base, and then the height is always perpendicular. So then you have to figure out which one's perpendicular, and that's how you get your base and your height. Multiply them together, take half, and you have the area. So with this triangle, we do 1/2 base times height. So which one's the base? Well, if you look at your perpendicular ones, the 10 is your base. and then your height is 6.4. The 4 down here, completely useless. All it's telling you is the distance from where the perpendicular height is to the edge of the triangle. Doesn't show anything else. Okay? So you multiply this all together, you should get 32 feet squared. Alright, and that is it for section 1.